Hi, and welcome to It's the Heart Work, People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Terry Ross. It's the Heart Work is about people finding their passion and walking in their purpose. I'm so excited today that we have a guest with us that's an agent, a mentor, a management consultant, and a speaker. On this, the Heart Work, we focus on health and wealth. We focus on helping people to live the extraordinary life that they dream of. And all of my guests will give you strategies on things that you can do to help you realize the dynamic and extraordinary life that you dream of. And today I have with me Coach Gary Mo Moore. Coach Gary Mo Moore is a native Hampton, Virginian. He is recently retired professional certified agent as well as president and founder of Gary Moore Speaks and Crossover Promotions LLC. Coach Moore is now a sought after transformational speaker. And again, I'm just so excited to have him with us today because when I met him, I felt inspired and just we had maybe a 2-minute conversation and I was like, you need to be on my podcast. So in addition to Coach being a sought after transformational speaker, he is empowering his clients with the keys to success. He's also a philanthropist, currently serves on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Virginia Peninsula and is a key contributor to the donor advised fund at the Peninsula Community Foundation. Coach is also a seasoned veteran in the world of sports. In August 2010, he became a certified agent through the National Basketball Players Association. He has also joined forces with the producers of MGM's hit movies Barbershop to create the ultimate documentary entitled Iverson. As executive producer and contributor, Moore tells how he witnessed the phenomenal rise from a childhood of crushing poverty to the heights of international acclaim for Allen Iverson. He also served as the personal manager and advisor to Mr. Iverson throughout his storied career that included his 2016 induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, NBA MVP, and 11-time All-Star and 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP award. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad I won't talk anymore because we have a real treat with us today, just a phenomenal man who's going to drop some gems to give us advice and strategies, not just advice. He's not a motivational speaker. He is a transformational speaker. Motivation lasts for a little while, but transformation changes lives. So with no further ado, Coach Gary Moore, tell us who you are and how did you get to the place that you are today?
Well, thank you, Terry. I'm so glad that you have me on here, and I really appreciate the opportunity that you give me to really tell my story and speak. And I have a very humble beginning. Grew up in the community of Aberdeen, which is a very historic community. It was founded back in 1619, well before our times, man. You know what I mean? And we have history in our community. That history led my father to want to bring us to Virginia. And I was born and raised in Newport News, Virginia, and immediately moved over to the Hampton, to the Aberdeen area. I can remember growing up as a child, watching my dad as he coached youth football, baseball, and he was really teaching young kids how to live. And he was specifically speaking to young black males. And as a kid, I was really fascinated with what I saw because I saw their community group was called the Aberdeen Fathers Club, Terry. And back then, fathers were very, very prominent in the communities, man. They were there. We were visually seeing them every single day. And I was fascinated to watch my dad just pile a bunch of kids up in his car, man, and go to football games. And I followed right along. So as I grew older, I really used that to help me to become the person that I am, and I use it as fuel to help me because I knew that he was doing something that was going to help my generation. I wanted to do something to help the generation that was going to follow me, you know. So with that being said, that was how I began. And in 1998, man, I was I was began a journey of life, you know, that I was already in a professional life, but a little before that, you know, I have to talk about the the tragedies that always seem to take place in life, you know. And with me, it started at 17 years old, man. I just graduated from high school, and we thought we were going to embark on our lives and ready to begin our life. But man, tragically, one of my closest friends, um, I lost him to gun violence, you know, Rudy, and it sent me in a what I called a wilderness of life. You know, I didn't know where to go at that point because that was really my first experience at death. You know, there were no death counseling. There was no um, grief counseling. You know what I mean? As it is today, and we just had to deal with it. And it put me in a jungle for about 2 years, man. And I didn't know where I was going and what I was doing. But after I graduated, I wasted probably about a year and a half of my parents' money going to college because I didn't attend any classes. All I was doing was just trying to have a good time. You know, it wasn't until I had met a person who became my future wife. I didn't know it then, but when when I met Phyllis while we were in school, you know what I mean, and she got sick, and I found out later that she was having my child. That changed everything for me, man. That changed everything for me. You know what I mean? That
Yes.
that funk that I was in,
Yes.
God quickly got my attention, man, and I got out of it because I knew it was time for me to do something, you
Yes.
know, and something led me to where I am today. You know what I mean? Because um, I was able to start a family at that point. Um, still still wasting time and money in college, but I got more serious about life. I got more serious about what I was going to do in my life at that point. And it led me back to them fields of Aberdeen, led me back home to to really follow in my father's footsteps for real this time, and
Yes.
to learn what it took to be a real man and be a real father. And that's what I started doing. And I was building my family, coaching in the community, because all I could do was pattern my life was with what I had seen my dad do. And I
Absolutely.
saw him to be a community leader, a youth football coach, and a family man. And that's
Yes.
what Gary Moore wanted to do at that point. And that's where it all started for me, man. And and then hopefully that's not where it ends, because I
Oh,
want to do more.
absolutely, Coach. And thank you so much, Coach Moore, for elevating the Black father. And I especially want to say the Black father because oftentimes people act like we don't exist
Right.
and that we didn't have models on what it takes to be a good man. And what I can know that immediately when you found out that she didn't have the flu, that she was having your first child, you
Yep.
understood the assignment because you had seen what it takes to be a good father. You had had a model. So thank you. And call your father's name. Let's say his name. It's almost Father's Day.
Yep. Albert Moore Sr., the late Albert
Absolutely.
Moore Sr. And I tell you, I go one step further. He meant so much to me that you know, I lost him in '07. But I tell you, Terry, when I started doing what I was doing, man, I felt it was only right that I did something in my dad's memory. So, you know, he cared so much about the Black athlete and how they progressed in their life, man, that I named the scholarship that we have now at a historical Black college or university at Johnson C. Smith, the Albert Moore Senior Memorial Scholarship. And it's designed for young people who can withhold a 2.9 to 3.5 GPA or more, and an athlete, to have funding available to them, you know what I mean, to go to school, you know what I mean? And I left that in the memory of my father, man, and I continue. It's an endowment. It'll always be there. And I always think about him when I think about the young people that get to go to school because of some of the money that we was able to donate from the scholarship.
That's beautiful, Coach. And thank you for the 2.9 for those of us who are almost Dean's List. We need love too.
Yes.
And I'm sure your dad is very proud of that. Absolutely. I miss the days when little boys would argue and compare their dads. Like, well, my dad can do this and my dad can do that. And you don't hear a lot of that anymore.
You really don't.
That's the way it was when I was growing up, and men took care of the community. And I want to say my father's name, Green Ross, because he was my real superhero. He's the reason that I stand the way I stand. And I'm so much closer to him in death than in life because he died when I was in college. So I didn't get a chance to get some of that early manhood mentoring from him. But he had done so much by the time I left home that if I never had another mentor in my life, I know how to stand and be a man because he led by example.
Yes, he did.
He was about working, taking care of the family, taking care of the community, and where he walked, he stood. He stood strong. So thank you so much for elevating fathers. And Coach, let's move on. Talk about your book. Your book, Realizing the Answer, second edition. Talk to us about that book and what made you write that book and what is the book about?
I'll tell you what inspired me to write the book. My life journey really inspired me to write that. You know what I mean? I talked about the transformation that I made in my life, and I talked about how I came to really believe what it really took for me to be a real man in life. Well, I transitioned from a comfortable position and probably the best job that I felt that I had ever had to this point. I was a administrator at a historical Black college university, Hampton University, and I was in a very stable position, and I got to work for a few years alongside my father. He worked there at the university too, but I was in that position, and I felt that God was calling me to do something else in life. And I made the very difficult decision to leave and accompany a young person who has been very, very near and dear to my heart. And that was Allen Iverson, you know. And when he got drafted and made the decision to leave college, I knew that whereas he had the talent, he did not have the vision that was necessary for him to navigate his way through the very difficult times that it take when so much fame and good fortune has been laid on you so much, like so many more of these young talented young athletes going. So I met him when he was very, very young, and helped him to understand the importance of education and going to school and things of that nature. And playing football was secondary, but it was one of the top things to him. So I used that desire that he had to fuel him to do things the right way, to make sure that he understood the importance of education, that he made sure that he understood the importance of going to school on a daily basis. And when he was able to navigate his way into the professional ranks, I made that decision to leave the comforts of my job and what I felt comfortable doing to help him to be successful at a journey that he too had embarked upon on himself, not knowing that he would need the support that I was about to give. And that's how we met. You know what I mean? So my journey started at that point, and it was a very remarkable journey. I met some extraordinary, wonderful people all along the way, you know, but I also met some great challenges as well. And it was those challenges that I met and was able to survive and to grow from that predicated me to want to write this book, because I wanted to tell about this journey. I wanted to tell somebody in hopes that it would help somebody else who possibly was doing the same thing or thinking about doing the same thing and was thinking that would it be worthwhile. And I'll tell you, to understand the importance of this learning process that we have in living and learning, those two things are intertwined. And I think that they're very, very important to us to understand that we're not going to know it all, that when we face challenges, we should look at those challenges as opportunities to learn and to do more to help one another. So from the introduction through the forward, all the way through to the final chapter, you know, it's interesting reading for anybody who's looking to be passionate about life and to feel like they can be successful in their own life.
Absolutely, Coach. Give us the full title of the book. I know the topic, the title is Realizing the Answer. What's the subtopic?
Realizing the Answer, Developing the Dreams of Tomorrow Today, second edition.
Yes, because the only way we can hope for a better tomorrow is that we work for it today.
Yes.
Yes, that's a wonderful title. And I'm listening to you talk, and I'm looking at the picture of one of our idols behind you, Muhammad Ali. And it says, "He who is not courageous enough to take a risk will accomplish," what's that?
Will not accomplish
Will
anything
not
in life.
accomplish.
That's right. Won't accomplish anything in life.
In life, absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm sitting now, that I know God has been moving me to do some things. I've been in some very comfortable positions that he's had to kick me out of. And I left kicking and screaming, thinking that I was being done wrong. But being moved from those spaces has led me to meeting so many wonderful people, doing things that I know is going to make tomorrow better. And one of those people that I've met is you. And so I'm so excited about that, because even at this age, we still need mentors.
Yes.
One of the things that's happening in the world right now is that loneliness is at an epidemic high. And especially among men, we don't get together and talk enough about the real issues of life, those tragedies and those things that pull us down. Like I heard you talk about your friend who was killed. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know anything about depression in the Black community. You keep moving, and especially among men. And
men didn't want to cry. We didn't feel like it was appropriate for us to cry in public. You know what I mean? Or to cry at all, that we always had to stand tough, you know?
Absolutely. And what happens is all of those things end up revealing themselves in other ways. So that's why I love the title of your book so much, Realizing the Answer, because sometimes we have to go through some things before we realize what the answer is. Tell us about some highlights in the book that you'd like to share, so that the readers and my audience would know what they're going to get and ready to wrap their hands around.
Some of the biggest highlights, of course, I already told you about my humbling beginnings, because that was a highlight for me. My daughter Shayla is the greatest gift that God ever gave me. You know what I mean? And to just see her be successful in life has really been a true blessing for me to behold. But I'm going to tell you, in the book, man, some of the real highlights include how I met Coach Larry Brown. and how I was able to not only meet him, but to connect with this man. This man who, I looked at, as the epitome of professional coaching. I used to watch him, many times from a distance. But when I met him personally and we connected, you know what I mean? And what I'm talking about. Many people meet, very few connect. When
Yes.
we connected, I felt that connection, man, and that went a long way. And I tell you about that connection in the book, and that's one of the highlights of it. And I was really just blown away when I felt that he and I were really getting close personally. This was outside of who we were to each other basketball wise. You know what I mean? I had to help him to understand Allen as I did. He knew the talent. He knew um, um, the the potential of the talent, but he didn't know the person. I helped him to know the person, which is all I ever wanted for anybody to know, about AI. I wanted them to know that guy that I knew. I wanted the world to know who he was. If they knew him like I did, they would learn to embrace him and love him the same way that I do, same way that I did. And that's one of the reasons that I jumped in and executive produced the documentary, because
Yes.
I wanted people to know the story and I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to tell what the things that I knew about him. And Coach Brown allowed me to be who I was. He allowed me to not only be who I was, but he showed me just how important that was to him. He knew the X's and O's of basketball, but he seemed very, very fascinated and pleased with how he could know more about us as a people, Allen as a person. And that meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? So that's another highlight in the book. And I talked about how I navigated my way through things that I did not know. And that's why I talk so much now about learning and living,
Yes.
because seemed like Coach Mo always was there to help solve problems and the many problems that our young people. Um, I mentioned Allen because he was one of the most famous and probably arguably one of the greatest young athletes in the world. But there were so many other young people who I touched their life and came up in those same fields in Aberdeen. And I'm thinking right now of Javanka, a young lady who was really at my youth football practices every single day. And I reveal the story in the book. So I'm not going to tell you the whole story,
Yes.
but you just need to read the book. But you'll know that there was a reason that that young lady wanted to play not only football with the little boys, she wanted to play basketball and everything else with the boys as well, because she was there on a daily basis. And that empowerment that I was doing there with the young boys and trying to teach them to grow up to be young men, she was right there. And she gained some of that strength and some of that stick-to-itiveness as a part of being there every day. But the interesting part of it is why she was there.
Yes.
Yourself, the whys are a lot more important than the whats a lot of times in life.
Absolutely.
And in the book, I will reveal to you some of the whys that she was there every single day, and how it makes me so proud to see how successful she has become as a female basketball coach. I've always gained this passion for women's sports,
Yes.
and I gained that from the love that I had for my mother. My mother, she didn't have a whole lot of the luxuries that we had. She never even got to drive a car, never even got her driver's license, but she cared for every single young person or young kid that came through our neighborhood. You know what I mean? And when I see what's happening today in women's sports, I am just pleased in such a way that it just tickles me pink when I see it. You know what I mean? And with Dawn Staley and her proteges, Aaliyah Boston and Asia Wilson and people like that. Even the young lady Caitlin Clark. You know what I mean? What they've done to women basketball today and the spotlight that they placed on it, man, let no man put us under. And we should really, really, really embrace it as the opportunity calls for.
Well, Coach, that is awesome. And one of the things that you just elevated is us not judging the book by its cover. We don't take time nowadays to get to know the person. We see something and we're ready to go with cancel culture. We're going to cancel everybody just by the first thing that they did. And you said getting to know the why, because the why is so much more important than the what. And if you get to know the why, you can dig a little bit deeper and begin to understand people. And then you can also sometimes help them unpack some things, because that's
Yes.
what we're here for. And I know some of the work that you are doing now is that you have a program called Become the General Manager of Your Life, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Let's talk about what with that general manager of becoming the general manager of your life, because see, we think that tomorrow is just going to get better. We have to be intentional. Just like when we're on the job and we set goals and we have a strategic plan, a 5 year, 3 year, then the next 90 days and all of that, we need that in our life as well, people. It's so important that we're very intentional about where we're going. And as parents, we have to be intentional about what we're doing for our children. You know, people will say, oh, let your children explore and find the world. Wealthy people, they don't do that. They're very intentional about it. That's something that they feed to other people. Yes, you want your children to explore the world, but you also need to make sure that they're doing that exploration within some parameters of some standards and some things that you have taught them, some principles and values in life. So
Yes.
talk to us about the general manager of your life, and what are you doing with that work? Because all of the names that you just called, you really had an impact on the world of sports. And I'll say that on the world of sports and not just in Virginia or those few people, because for every person that you touch, they've touched thousands and even millions of other lives. How many
That's
boys been running around wanting to be AI? How many
yes.
girls are playing basketball because of the coaches that you impact and the young lady that was at the practices and things like that? So tell us about the general manager of your life.
And that's why I love talking to you. I appreciate that, because that is one of the things that fuels me, Terry. They say, man, why do you want to help people? Why did you feel like it was important for you to leave your comfortable job at Hampton University to help Allen navigate and to help him to build his career, sacrificing my own? Because I knew and I felt that his success, what his success would mean to so many other young people, just like what you said. I wanted them to have something to believe that it can happen, that it can take place. Success can come to all of us. And when you talk about why I want to, the general manager in your life, it's that same belief of the same principles that were used. I want people to use it to navigate their way through their own life. It doesn't have to be basketball. It doesn't have to be football. It doesn't have to be sports, period. It could be in agriculture. It could be in the military. You know what I mean? It could be in the classroom. But whatever you want to do in your life, you have to have principles, and you have to be and you have to have a method in order to put it together and be successful. In the same thing with your life. The general manager of an organization, that's the man who calls the shots. That's the man who gets you in line to get a paycheck, to let you know what it's going to take for you to not only make this team and be a member of this team, but to build a career. That's what I want to use Gary Moore Speaks and becoming the general manager of your own life too. And I start with teaching people how to be teachable. You have to be teachable in order to teach others. And I feel like in order to learn, you have to understand those principles of learning. Why is it important? Um, because we all want to mature one day. We all want to say, well, look, Gary Moore, I knew him then, but I'm glad that I watched him to mature. And that maturity isn't what I'm talking about in age, because we believe that the older you get, the more mature you get.
Yeah.
Maturity would help us. The best way to describe it to me is, how were you able to benefit from the failures that took place in your life? How do you learn to overcome adversity? How do you learn to deal with the trouble that's going to come your way, the problems that's going to come your way, you know? And in those principles, I teach you to embrace the problems, because I used to love it when they say, Coach Moore handled it. Coach, this is what's happening to me. This is what's going on now, and I don't know how I'm going to make it. Well, if you don't know how you're going to make it, then there's no way that I'm going to know. I want you, each and every one of us, to always know how we are going to make it. So becoming the general manager of your life, take charge. Be that person that's in charge. Be the person who teaches yourself how to get through that when God says that this too shall pass. What does he mean by that? What do you mean by this too shall pass? One day it's gonna be all over, man. You know what I mean? The problem that you have today, 24 to 48 hours now, no one will be talking about it, you know? So don't let it destroy you. Let it make you stronger. Let it make you better, you know? And once you get to that level of maturity, then you can be proud to say, I'm mature and I've graduated and I'm there. You know what I mean? That's what becoming the general manager of your life does. And I discuss those principles in detail.
Well, Coach, I see that got you fired up right there. Coach stepped up to the forefront when we talked about that general manager piece. I love that,
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
sitting here inspired. I'm just trying to hold it in. Thank you so much, because you're exactly right. There are no losses in life, there are lessons. And we have to be very intentional, about what we're doing. We have to be very intentional about where we're going, what we're doing, and how we're going to get there. And I have so many other questions that I want to ask you right now, but I'm going to kind of hold back. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today about Gary Moore? Gary Moore Speaks, Coach Mo, the executive producer, the board member of the Boys and Girls Club. Is there anything else that you'd like to share and tell us that will help us move forward? Because again, we know that motivation, it'll last for a little while, but transformational is life changing. And some of those things that you just talked about for us to help transform our lives, you talked about being intentional, taking charge. I was going to ask you to give us a little bit out of the general manager, but you said take charge. And that's exactly it. You have to take charge of your life. And until you get angry enough or hit the bottom enough to take charge, then you're going to probably be like a piece of driftwood.
Hmm?
You don't want to be a driftwood on the ocean of life. You want to be like a steamship that when those waves hit, you might bounce a little bit, but you're constantly moving forward. And I know you're from the Hampton, Virginia area, and that's near the ocean. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and you talk about the fields of Virginia. I didn't,
Aberdeen, yes.
and when you talked about that, it made me remember in Jackson State at one of my psychology classes, they were talking about our first jobs. And one of my first jobs was chopping cotton. And I can remember saying it, and a kid laughed, and he said, "Ross, you must have been a slave." And
You could have felt
but he
like
didn't
that, but
understand that we were making $35 a day at that time. That was $175 a week. That was a lot of money for a
mm-hmm.
14-year-old in the Mississippi Delta to have $175 at the end of the week. And you had to be responsible with that money. Our
Yeah,
mom didn't take our money. She made us save it. We bought our school clothes because, back then you had something called school clothes, round the house clothes, and church clothes.
right,
You didn't get them
right,
mixed up. You knew which
right.
was which.
You
And if
knew
they
which way
saw
to
you
go.
confusing it, they got you together real quick about it.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
so being able to discuss these things and hold your head high and know that we were growing up in an agriculture community and you did the work that you needed to do. And you knew that, again, like you said, this too shall pass and this won't be like, and if you're intentional about it, you can make that change. You can have that incredible life that you dream of. And that's what it's the hard work, people, passion, and purpose is about. It's living the extraordinary life that you dream of. And I'm still realizing my dreams, coach. There were
Absolutely.
times that I allowed the surroundings that I was in or the way people treated me to kind of dictate how I dreamed or what I felt like I could accomplish. And it really took the pandemic, and I'm a full grown man. My daughter's in college. When the pandemic hit, and I had that real time to sit with myself, I had to reintroduce myself to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic, I had some things happen to me where there were false accusations, where people just really lied on me so that they could win.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
what I found out is that win was very temporary for those people.
That's right.
Every one of those people who attacked me or accused me of things and just lied on me, they knew nothing was true. But if we throw enough at him, it'll put this big cloud around him that no one would
Mm-hmm.
want to. And when I tell you the loneliness that I felt, walking in rooms of people that I had supported, people who I had promoted, and they wouldn't even sit at the table with me, in rooms with 40 people, and I'm at a table by myself. And
Yeah.
these are all grown folk.
Right.
But that, me being able to sit at those tables and not walk away because I'm going to feed my family.
There you go. There you
That
go.
really, it broke something in me, and it needed to be broken so that I could rebuild some things that reminded me of who I am and what God made me to be. And meeting you has really helped me to really step more into that because
Right.
we're from probably two different generations, and to see you constantly, you're building, you have dreams, you just finished writing the second edition of your book, you're starting new companies, you've had a historic phenomenal career on
Mm-hmm.
every level, and you're
Mm-hmm.
still creating and you're still dreaming, and that means so much to me to have someone like you in my life that I can look at as a model to say that this is not over. Stay the course, stick to it, and you will realize your dream. So thank you so much. I
But
will realize the answer.
that means a lot to me. And you asked me one other thing that I wanted to people to remember about me and to know about me. Terry, I was able to find benefit in just about every loss that took place in my life
Yes.
from a very young age.
Yes.
And that helped to fuel me. That helped to give me that passion to continue. And I'm gonna tell you, I lost my best friend when I was only 17 years old, knew nothing about grief. Um, I learned from that point forward through all of these losses. Since then, I've lost my mom, lost my dad, lost my nephew, oh my goodness gracious, lost my closest friends, but I was able and I learned the importance of making sound decisions.
Yes.
That's what I feel I can put my mark on. That I learned how to find the benefit of just about every loss that took place. And that's very, very hard to do. But it's easy to do if you got faith in the same God that I serve or
Yes.
we serve, because we know that trouble don't last always. Times are going to change. You have to make the changes and make sound decisions in your life. And that gave me the fuel to do that, to constantly do that. When one door closes, you have to go and open another, because where that closes, something else opens up for you. Close the door to one for greater opportunities, and you'll never know the great opportunities. I say three things before I go. Three things that I feel passionate about in learning. Bad experiences, because those are the um, um, the perception that bad experiences destroys you. No, bad experiences can really, really, really build you up.
Yes.
If you watch it carefully. And change is something that has to happen in life. That's the reality and of it all. Because if you don't change, sometimes you don't want to know what it's gonna hurt you most by not changing than to just change. Change is just something that just happens to take place. So change is a reality, you know.
Yes.
And then maturity. Be mature enough to learn from your mistakes and to find the good in any bad situation that comes to you. That's those are the three things that help to fuel me and to help to keep me to continue to live, learn, and grow.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, Coach Gary Mo Moore. I have to be intentional because the
Yeah.
R goes anyway
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, we have Coach Mo here. I thank you so much for sharing these gems. I've been helped this morning. I'm sure my audience is going to extremely get some just extreme gems out of this. That troubles don't last always.
I sure hope so. Yeah.
And you said something. Sometimes door closes, but you said something. You said sometimes we have to close the door.
Got to close the door. Sometimes you got to close the door on yourself to create greater opportunities.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes we have to close the door on ourselves. And there are some parts of my life that I've closed the door on recently, and I'm so excited about it. I keep up with the days on it because they say sometimes it takes about 21 to 25 days for you to reinvent yourself or to start a new habit. And I've been really intentional about starting new habits lately and working on things that's going to benefit me moving forward because I see a long life. And I really am excited that I met you, that we had that brief conversation. I mean, we literally, what did we talk? Maybe 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
exchanged
Yeah.
information. You
Yeah.
were having dinner and we walked through, I spoke and you stopped and said something to me. I don't know what you saw that made you say something, but thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate that because I know this is just the first of many conversations that we'll have moving forward.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us on this, the Heart Work, People, Passion, and
Thank you for
Purpose
having me.
podcast. This is a podcast for people who found their passion and walking in their purpose, and make sure that you enjoy the journey because someone wishes they were in your shoes. So what you may be sad about today or upset about today, that would be someone else's mountaintop. So be thankful, show gratitude, remain in gratitude, and know that we are people with passion and purpose. Thank you so much for joining me on this, The Hard Work.